before I went into Romania, I'd heard them say how wonderful the Romanian people were, and I thought, what do you mean? I asked Don Mansfield, who'd just been in there.
Right.
I said, Don, everybody talks about how wonderful they are. What is it about them? And he said, well, Ney, let me tell you, I went in last week, and I was supposed to get in there at 7 and teach a Bible study. But he said, at 7, I got detained at the border, and they kept me till about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, my goodness.
And I said, Don, why? And he said, the thing you don't understand is they just want to intimidate you. They don't have to have a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, I went in, and I knew they'd all be gone. And I came to the house, and they were all still there. Every one of them were still there. He said they had eaten, but the food was on the table, and so they watched me eat. And then when I finished eating, the father of the home came over, and he said, I want to give you this doll dressed in the
Yes.
country
Right.
garb.
Right. Yeah.
And he said, as just a remembrance and a thank you for your time here. Then the wife came over, and she had a doily. And she said, I want you to please take this home to your wife to thank her so much for you coming all this way to teach us the Word of God. You will never know how much it means. Then the grandmother came over, a little old grandmother, and she knelt down at his feet, and she said, I don't have anything to give you, but I want to wipe your feet. Tears were coming down his cheek. And she said, thank you so much for coming all this way to teach us the Word of God. And tears by this time were coming down my cheek.
Oh, my.
And I said, okay, Don, I understand what you mean. And that is really how the hearts were. They were so glad someone came with the Word of God to teach them. And
they had sat there the whole time, waiting.
And that's where Ben and Anna are now. But back then, you couldn't meet unless they came every 30 minutes into the house, so as not to draw a crowd.
Right.
And one of my first pictures, and they said you can't take a picture, was of hands on a coffee table where they had made me an apple cake in my honor. And I couldn't take their faces, but I could take their hands by the apple cake.
Wow.
I mean, it's just, we have no idea what we have in America.
No, we really don't.
We had, they had no freedom.
So when you were there early on, that was when Sosescu was still...
Oh, he was a madman. And he would take husbands away from their families for years at a time to work on his palace that's bigger than the Pentagon.
I've seen the picture.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
I have a good friend who said he was in Romania toward the latter days of Sosescu, and he said there was a traffic blockage that went back for maybe a mile and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a parade of cars, all limousines, coming by, and the driver said, well, I'm sure it's something related to Sosescu and whatever. It was his dog.
Oh, my
his
word.
dog. Ken Gangle told me this story.
Oh, my word.
His dog was sitting in the back of this last limousine, and it was a whole parade where everybody stopped as his dog was brought.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Those are the kind of things that get to you.